We're the voices of experiencers, and we are the experiences with extraterrestrials.
My bedroom had a doorway in it, a door that went outside to our backyard. And I woke up one night and there was all these colored lights still in the room coming through that window. And so I got up and I looked out into the backyard, and there was this classic kind of flying saucer sitting in the backyard, with all this fantastic light spinning around. But of course it scared me, and I ran through the house to into the basement. It's the only place I could think of to hide. And I ran down to the darkest corner of the basement I could find, and I could still see the lights coming through the windows in the basement, kind of moving and flashing. And then I heard, somebody coming down the stairway, hearing footsteps, which was actually quite terrifying. And, I hear the footsteps come down and then see this shadow come around, and in the way I remember it in the dream is or whatever my original memory was seeing literally like a little green man, like you would imagine, the classic kind of thing with a ray gun pointing at me, and that was the last thing I remember. And then over the years, I've regressed back into that, and it's kind of interesting. I've gotten more and more detail about that experience, but the being, as I looked at it, changed. I saw more and more when I regressed the first time, then I saw more as a upright being, more humanoid in a suit, but I still couldn't make out the face. And then more recently with Mary regression, I started to tune into the face.
It's time for disclosure. It's time for truth, because truth brings powerful transformations.
Say this before I forget, experiencer, I hope you learned that the two places you don't want to go, the basement and the attic, when you get scared. So.
We're the voices of change and profound evolution.
I'm wondering, to the experiencer, how frightening this was. I mean, if you had memory, even though you thought it was a dream, but you remembered this all, growing up, how terrifying was that?
We're the bridge between two different worlds.
I found the description that you gave of the face and how it seemed to change interesting. And the thought came into my mind that I think it's probably happened to me, and I know I've heard of many other people saying the same thing over the years.
Profound integration is coming.
I love it. I'll tell you, it's amazing what these people can do. I'll tell you though, what got me when you said you heard footsteps, because when I see these folks, especially the gray people, they're not even on the ground, their feet. They're like kind of, I can't explain how they walk. Like they were,
glide.
Yeah, they glide, and they
just who are extraterrestrials.
We are the voices of experiencers because we are the experiencers. It's time for disclosure, and it's time for truth, because truth brings powerful transformation. And we are the voices of change. We are about evolution on an expansive level, living life without fear and becoming the bridge between two different realities. Profound evolution is here. Profound integration is here. This is the Voices of Contact. Hi, everyone. I'm Mary. I'm a channeler and psychic medium. I'm also a hypnosis regressionist for ET experiencers, and I work with MUFON doing regression work. I also work with PTSD experiencers, paranormal experiencers, and victims of crime to assist them in recall. I'm really looking forward to another amazing show tonight with our panel. I just want to say to you guys that the work that you're doing here with me is so impactful. Like literally, it's life changing. And I thank you for being a part of it and being here with me. It means more than you realize to me as well as the listeners. So, allow me to introduce some of my most favorite people. First, we have Deb and RJ DeRoos. They're authors, paranormal UFO researchers, and they're experiencers themselves. And they also are the founders of the Michigan UFO Contact that happens every year in Houghton Lake, Michigan at the end of September. They're owners and managers of Mystical Awakenings Radio, Mystical Awakening Podcast on the YouTube channel, and at the Mystical Awakenings Metaphysical Store in Houghton Lake, Michigan. Next, we have the fabulous and well-loved Michael Carter. He is a lifetime UFO contactee, author of Alien Scriptures, Extraterrestrials, and the Holy Bible. He's also a regular consultant on the History Channel's Ancient Aliens series and the Travel Channel's UFO Lost Evidence series, as well as being featured in several UFO documentaries. Last but definitely not least, we have our amazing new panelist, Deborah Jordan Cabo. She was the central figure in Bud Hopkins' international bestseller, Intruders, The Incredible Visitations at Copley Woods, which was actually made into a CBS miniseries in 1992. She's co-author of the book Abducted, The Story of the Intruders Continues, and author of Extraordinary Contact, Life Beyond Intruders. She's a former Indiana MUFON investigator and co-founder of her own paranormal group, Paranormal Underground, and host of the Midwest Paratalk podcast. Hi, everyone. How are you guys tonight?
Good.
Great.
I wish we could do this every day instead of waiting a whole week.
I know. It seems too long, doesn't it?
It does.
Got too much catching up to do.
For sure.
So you guys are going to love this regression tonight. So we have our experiencer back from last week. But what our audience doesn't know, because they weren't a part of that show because, well, I wouldn't record. This is a part of the regression that originally when I tried to record with this experiencer, it completely cut out. So like halfway through, it was getting nice and juicy, really good information. Then all of a sudden, my whole computer just glitched, which wasn't a big deal because like the recording system I used, even if you lose it, as soon as you pull it back up, it pulls up the most recent one. Okay. And when I pulled that up, it recorded absolutely nothing. So I decided to try to like outsmart ET and write it all down because I take notes to the whole thing. So wrote it all out. And then if you guys remember, when we tried to record, the whole thing, all it did was like glitch me and make me sound like a chipmunk until I got pissed off. And we just moved on to the next one. And then like it recorded just fine after that. Like there was no issues whatsoever. So apparently they weren't ready for us to get the message out. So fingers crossed. I think they're ready now because they've let us get this far.
Oh, I'm excited.
But this one, just to give a little bit of background, is when he was a little boy, and if I remember correctly, and when I have the experiencer come in, I'll have him give his background. But I think if I remember, because it was a long time ago, he saw lights in his backyard. He went down to his basement and he saw an ET being standing in his basement. And then the ET, what he remembers to the regression, takes him onto a mothership to a completely different place. So I'm going to bring the experiencer in real quick. Can you give us a little bit of background that led up to the basement and then what you were seeing in the basement?
Sure. So, hello, everybody.
Hello, and
Hi.
and thank you.
So I was very young, probably 5 years old. And I will say also that for most of my life, until I kind of had a glimpse of what was going on, as I started putting two and two together, that I always chalked this off as just this very vivid, amazing dream I had when I was 5 years old and remembered my whole life, but until I kind of realized it was more than that. So I had my bedroom had a doorway in it, a door that went outside to our backyard. And I woke up one night and there was all these colored lights filling the room coming through that window. And so I got up and I looked out into the backyard, and there was this classic kind of flying saucer sitting in the backyard, with all this fantastic light spinning around. But of course it scared me, and I ran through the house to into the basement. It was the only place I could think of to hide. And I ran down to the darkest corner of the basement I could find, and I could still see the lights coming through the windows in the basement, kind of moving and flashing, and then I heard, somebody coming down the stairway, hearing footsteps, which was actually quite terrifying. And I hear the footsteps come down, and then see this shadow come around, and in the way I remembered in the dream is or whatever my original memory was seeing literally like a little green man, like you would imagine, the classic kind of thing with a ray gun pointing at me, and that was the last thing I remember. And then over the years, I've regressed back into that, and it's kind of interesting. I've gotten more and more detail about that experience, but the being, as I looked at it, changed. I saw more and more when I regressed the first time, then I saw more as a upright being, more humanoid in a suit, but I still couldn't make out the face. And then more recently with Mary regressions, I started to tune into the face, and that's actually a whole interesting thing too. That's kind of changed, but I'll just leave it at that. That's kind of the starting point.
All right. So with this first clip, it's kind of like he described. He's a young boy, and he's in the basement, and he sees the being standing in front of him. So give me one moment. We're drifting and we're floating away from that scene. And we're going to move to the time when you were a young boy and you were in the basement, and that being is in front of you now. And I want you to describe him for me. Tell me what he looks like.
Well, he's very large. He's holding this box, fireworks in holographic little toy, long fingers and nails. When I look at the skin, it does look kind of scaly.
What does his face look like? Have him turn around and you'll be able to see his face clearly.
Okay, it's like a long face, but it's weird. It's almost like it's shifting. Get a fix on it. Face I saw the last time, but now it looks a little different, or it's weaving back and forth. Like, am I looking at a hologram? Something underneath a hologram? Seeing like there's a hologram or something. It's
Well, you're seeing multiple faces.
like I'm seeing the face I saw the last time we looked at this, and then I'm seeing Blair, like it's almost like a bug, like manted kind of, or bug-like being.
So I just want to say this before I forget, experiencer, I hope you learned that the last two places you don't want to go, the basement and the attic, when you get scared. So,
That's right. I didn't have many choices.
Okay, so I just wanted to get that out there.
Yeah, right. That's like what you don't do in a movie.
Yeah.
Don't go in the barn with all of the hanging chainsaws.
Right.
Go and get
Right. Yeah. Let's go to the basement.
Reverend Carter, I believe, he does his filming in the basement.
Oh.
Yes, I do. But I have all my friends here. So when they come, they'll be welcome.
Nice.
Right.
So that was interesting. It reminds me when I was young too. I had an experience where I I was probably about 8, and I lived in the city. And in the early '60s, back then, you came in when the streetlights came on. But I found myself outside all by myself, and I was about 5 houses from the intersection, and I saw a UFO land right in the intersection, and somebody get out, and I ran behind these bushes in this house that I knew the people there, and I don't remember what happened after that. I'm going to have to get regressed on that, but yeah, I could vividly see the lights on it. I could, it was definitely a UFO landed right in the intersection, probably about 20 feet around, and I saw a being get out. And when I thought about it the other day, something came to me. I remember turning around and seeing a being touching my shoulder, and I had to stop because when I was young, I wasn't handling it very well. So all the experiences I had, but I'll have to get regressed by Mary one of these days and figure that out.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm wondering to the experiencer how frightening this was. I mean, if you had memory, even though you thought it was a dream, but you remembered this all, growing up, how terrifying was that?
It was pretty scary, hearing the footsteps coming down the stairs. Just that whole experience. Yeah, it was quite frightening, for a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
Right.
I found the description that you gave of the face and how it seemed to change interesting. And the thought came into my mind that I think it's probably happened to me, and I know I've heard of many other people saying the same thing over the years about similar circumstances where sometimes what you think you're seeing is what, like, they're projecting an image to you so that you'll see something other than what they actually are. People have seen them like owls. I think I saw one when I thought it was a deer coming down the road straight ahead at me. One time I thought it was an old woman, but she kept kind of looking like between them and then an old woman, and kind of vacillating back and forth. So I wonder if you were experiencing some kind of a screen thing, and
Exactly.
It was, and you were breaking through somehow. It was either weak or you were strong, and it was breaking. You were getting images of the actual thing as well as what they were trying to make you think that you were seeing, so you wouldn't be as afraid because you recognized one thing more than another, or one thing might have been more scary than the other. You know what I mean?
So right. You're exactly right.
Yeah, and that's what came to my mind when I heard you saying that. Also, I had an experience once where I was seeing what I thought were people, but their faces, and I was only seeing them through the peripheral vision. If I looked straight directly in their direction, I couldn't see them. But when I looked away, I could see them in my peripheral vision, and I could see their body, and they were wearing the same exact clothes, and they were human shaped. But their faces were literally pixelated, as if someone had intent, like what you see on TV when somebody's trying to conceal their identity and they're pixelated, just their face. These dudes, just their faces were pixelated. And how that even works in your mind, I don't even know. But that kind of came to my mind as well. So I found that very interesting that, as a child, you would recognize that and realize that something was going on there. Even
I didn't recognize it as a child. It was only when we looked at it in the regression because I sometimes I would try and draw. I'll draw what I see, but I was trying to draw this face because we did a regression before to try and see the face, and I could sort of see a face in my mind, but I had trouble drawing it. So I said, well, let's go back in and take a real hard look at the face. And then when we did that, it was like it started it started, like shifting, like it was changing before my eyes. And that's when it was like seeing the face under the face, the real one, I'm assuming,
And who knows, maybe it was even your own mind. The human mind is so powerful. And I know from
Yeah.
personal experience that your mind will protect you from things that it doesn't think you can handle, and, to a point. And maybe, it came from you. Who knows where it came from? Nobody knows. But
Right. When are you ready to see a giant intelligent bug in front of you?
Yeah, I know.
Right?
Exactly.
It takes a while to get to that point.
Exactly. I don't know. I know some people that probably are never going to be ready for that.
Yeah, for sure.
Did you say that? But before you, did you say that you saw a little green person with a ray gun?
That was in my original memory of the dream as a kid,
Yeah.
and then growing up, it was like your classic idea of a little green man with a ray gun. That's what I saw.
I love it. I love it. I'll tell you, yeah, it's amazing what these people can do. I'll tell you, though, what got me when you said you heard footsteps, because when I see these folks, especially the gray people, they're not even on the ground, their feet. They're like kind of, I can't explain
Floating.
how they walk. Like they were,
Glide.
Yeah, they glide and they're kind of jerky, but I saw brothers walk like that down the street when I was living in the projects. Anyway, you can never cut that.
Maybe
This is the brother from another planet, but no. So they see, I'd have been terrified if I had heard footsteps coming down the basement. Wow.
But so what, the other thing that was interesting where I said
At 5 years old, wow.
when I first remembered it, they was pointing a ray gun at me, but when I regressed into it, it wasn't a ray gun. It was this box that he handed to me, and he opened the lid, and it had this like amazing holographic fireworks coming out of it, and I went instantly from terror to like joy and fascination when he gave me that thing. Right, it worked beautifully. I was like, wow.
They gave you a toy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a weird detail that think that.
But it got you calmed down a little.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
And
And
it's
then
amazing.
I could feel walking up the stairs. I could feel the hand on my back in the regression of me walking up the stairs with me, and then me just staring at this box like this is the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'll use every trick in the book to get you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost comforting to, week after week, we hear experiencers oftentimes say that they did little things to calm them.
Yeah.
And their name is Bob.
Yeah. I wish they had done that
Or
for
Bill.
me.
No, it was Dave.
Dave. That's right. Dave.
Now, I will say before I play this next clip, this is not the first regression that we've done where we regressed somebody and they talked about being a little boy. And the other one, he remembers being in his room, and it's not the same experience, or it's a different one where his conscious memory was when he was a little boy and he remembers little green men standing around bed. So it just fascinates me. I think that's that child connection. That's how you see it versus what it is. I wonder if that's an overlay they use, for children.
Yeah, like a screen memory. Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like you're kind of like a frequent flyer.
It seems
You
that
have
way.
to look at your air
although,
miles.
I don't,
Yeah.
You may be able to get a free ride next time. Yeah.
I think I don't remember most of it.
Yeah.
Though, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So you get the thing that showed up on my leg week and a half ago. It didn't look normal, and I
Oh
don't
my
remember
God.
getting caught.
Yeah.
And it looked like two rectangular prongs marks, but no pain, no blood,
Right.
and but I don't remember anything but I don't remember getting that happening either. So it's kind of like,
But that's
okay,
how it goes. That's how
interesting
they
to
do it.
know. Yeah.
I mean, what you're describing is textbook. Screen memory,
Yeah, it's weird.
marks, no memory. It's classic.
Well, and some of the ones where I remembered the detail, like live, no doubt about it, it was very orchestrated. Like,
Mm.
I knew there was once where I just had a telepathic message to me driving home one day, as clear as a bell, that said, on a certain date, November 2nd, 2 a.m. And so I had I don't know, 3 or 4 months to just think about
Yeah.
that. And then sure enough, November 2nd, 2 a.m., they took me. And it was very orchestrated because I think they were trying to, it was like an inflection
Mhm.
point. Oh, we're going to wake you up more. So it was interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Powerful.
All right. So for this next clip, this is when the ET being takes him aboard a craft. So give me one moment.
Mhm.
So you're in the ship with him now?
Yeah.
Where are you going?
I think we're going to that mothership again.
I thank you. I thank him for showing you what he actually was. Let's move forward now, where he's taking you to the mothership. You're on the mothership now. What do you see around you?
It's a vast. It's like we're on like this soil, like earthen path, trees and forests and that look like kind of quaint and almost more natural building materials, but then I can see like other city-like structures in the distance and looking buildings too, glass bubbles that rise into the sky.
Do you see anything in the village?
I see houses and I see like beings that are kind of manted, like they're humanoid bodies, more with not claw so much, but a big flat triangular big eyes that are not bulging out so much, but more like flattened. Oh yeah, but they live on the ship. This is home.
So let's move forward. And we're going to move forward to the building that the being is taking you to. And you're at that building now.
And then she stops.
Yeah. Well, that's the point, right? Suspense.
So it's a little confusing. So that on the ship, the mothership, it was Earth-like. So
Yeah, it was like a huge freaking city, or I can't say how enormous it was, but it was, trees and you know, an earthen path. It was like I was like walking through like a little village, you know, with houses, and people were out in front of their houses, like
Like
I mean,
human
it was
people?
very
or-
very quaint. No, they were these manted beings that had these big triangular heads, kind of manted, but you know, from the neck down, they were like humanoid, you know, regular arms and legs, as far as I could tell, and dressed, you know, in clothes, you know, almost like we wear. It was a trip, and you could, as you walk down the path, I could sense there was a little curvature, you know, like you were kind of. It slightly felt like you could look like it was slanting upward, as if there was like, you know, it's maybe spherical or something on a very large scale. But yeah, it was huge.
So
It
go
reminds
ahead,
me
Michael.
of. I'm sorry,
No, go ahead.
Rodrigo. No, I was just going to say it reminded me of some of the stories in the Upanishads and the Mahabharata where they're describing these flying cities,
Yeah,
but they're really they're ships, and
right.
these beings lived on them, but they call them flying cities.
Yeah, it was definitely that.
So I have to address the fact that during the recording, did you guys catch that it sounded like two male voices speaking at
Yeah.
the same time?
Yeah, I did.
What was that all about?
I don't know. It sounded like there was some kind of overlay I heard too.
Hmm.
I didn't notice that before. Did you, Mary?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm not
that's-
sure what that was.
I would be interested to go back and play that and figure that out. That was because we've gotten that
Yeah.
before. Voices coming through during my
That was
regressions.
Morse code, all
Yeah.
kinds of things.
The Russian woodpecker.
Well, yeah, we've had the Morse code going on really a couple, three, four
Yeah.
shows. Yeah,
I know that because my dad was a ham radio operator, and so was my late husband. So I know all
Right.
about the Russian woodpecker.
and our listeners notice it too, and they comment on it. So,
Did they? Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
So I just want to ask, did you feel comfortable, almost at home being
I
there?
did. Yeah.
That was the sense I got.
I
That's
mean,
me
I
too.
I don't know if that's because the regression, you know, you're just observing, but I didn't feel scared at all, and I felt very comfortable with this being who, the one part they didn't show in the clip was when I went on that ship. I'd been on the ship in the regression before and seen the being. But this time I saw the being in its true form, which was this incredible mantis that was like kind of glowing in light, golden light, and very much a full-blown mantis creature. But I just thought it was stunning, and it showed me its true form. It was wow.
Cool.
Yeah, Gaia did a series on like 8 or 10 different different extraterrestrials, and the Andromedas were one of them. And they said they don't have a planet they live on. They actually live on a planet that floats through the air. So they build these incredible ships, and they're just, you know, there's cities in the air, and
That sounds like what he just described.
yeah.
I mean, I definitely got the feeling like this is where they lived. You know, this
Yeah.
was home.
So
Yeah, it's interesting though that it was so Earth-like. You know,
Yeah.
I've been on one that had many, many, many different types of beings on it, and it looked a lot like a city, but not. I mean, there was a difference. You know what I mean? It wasn't real Earth-like, but this seems like it was.
It did seem that way to me.
Yeah.
Some of the skyscrapers in the background looked kind of different. a little more futuristic, like more like bubble shaped, like stacked bubbles, you know, and towers. I know they were kind of futuristic looking, but
Interesting.
Kind of like Roger Dean artwork. You know, Roger, you're familiar with Roger Dean? Yeah.
All right. So for this next clip, it talks about who he's going to visit while he's on this craft.
Glass, bubbly like elevator. We get out. Going back to we're going to visit I call her the mother being. So we're going to this room being he's a part of the ship, like almost like liquid metal, right out of the wall. Take any shape, and it still connects to the wall of the ship, but it takes a form. Utterly manted. It's like this triangular head, and it's kind of like the people outside. It's like.
So to give a little bit of background on that clip, he's going to visit what he's always deemed as the mother being. He comes into a room, and I'll have him describe this more. And interestingly enough, this is actually where the original regression that we did completely cut out. But he describes like seeing a different kind of being that kind of greets him before the mother comes in. And so I'll have him take over and describe what this mechanical type looking being actually looked like. So calling to the experiencer, why don't you give us your feedback and your description of what you were seeing?
okay. So first of all, Mary, I you know, in the clip I was describing this mother being, but I don't remember another. Right now, I'm not remembering another being other than the manted being that brought me there. So.
Well, in that clip, you were talking about the metallic thing that was coming out of the wall.
Okay, I can talk about that.
There you go. Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was really very wild, interesting looking. It had the shape of like these other mantids in a way, like the head, and I think it was like a medical kind of robot, but it felt to me like the ship was completely awake. The ship was alive and intelligent, an AI intelligence, if you would. But and I think we asked them about this, that the ship was imprinted sort of with the collective consciousness of this race, and so these beings are very, as a race, are somewhat collective, and so they connect with the ship, and the ship, you know, they all kind of know what's going on because it's almost like this unity thing. So this mother being just had a really loving energy. I felt a lot of love for it, and I was very little, and it was doing some kind of examination on me, and it was very strange, but you know, I felt love for it. It's weird.
So when you say a mother being, I'm sorry, but I'm getting these visions of a hive or something. Is it that type of a deal, or?
Well, I think there is a bit of a much more collective connection with this race, and the ship being sort of imprisoned with that was part of that also. But the mother being was just the sense that it gave off this very motherly energy
Okay.
to me, you know.
Okay.
So I was not afraid of it at all, even though it was examining me and it had these, sometimes it would, would like create like a tentacle or something
Yeah.
to do an examination. Kind of vaguely remember that, but I felt very okay with it, good with it. Weird.
So again, these beings take the extra step or steps to make this little boy feel comfortable
Mhm.
and not
Yeah.
afraid.
Yeah.
Interesting. So do you feel a connection with these beings, like you are a part of them?
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I do. Uh, well, I think there was another regression we did where we sort of met, what seemed almost like a mom and dad kind of thing for me, and they were definitely manted. So I don't know. I don't know what to think
Yeah,
of that.
that
But
regression.
that was the feeling.
That regression came back to me as well, and I didn't know for sure if that was your regression
Yeah.
or somebody else's. So that's really interesting. Really interesting. Okay, so very possible starseed. Michael's going to spank me for that.
No,
No.
no. I mean, anything is possible. That's one thing this phenomenon has taught me. Anything is possible. I just resonated with the ship because I've heard experiencers talk about that and read stuff where the ship is alive, it has a consciousness like the Earth does, and so there is a unity kind of thing there. But yeah, who knows?
Yeah, I've heard people say,
And I defer to him because he's having the experience.
and I've heard people say that they've been taught how to fly some of these smaller ships, and a part of flying them is being one with the ship, and you use your mind
Yeah.
to control it.
Yeah.
So there's some kind of organic component to some of these ships anyway,
Right.
that connect with the person that's piloting it.
Yeah.
I've heard
Direct
that.
neural connection to the ship.
Yeah.
It's, the ship's organic, and it just does
Yeah.
what you tell it, and you feel. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean,
And-
that motherly feeling you got could have been coming from the ship itself.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not,
Exactly.
Right. I mean, I think the ship and that mother being were one and
Yeah.
the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of, I used to, in my backyard years ago, I had a red maple tree that,
I have one and I hug it all the time. It's the only thing that survived the tornado, and I thank it for being there.
yes.
It feels
yes.
like it hugs me.
It does. Well, I
Yeah.
was going to say, I would meditate daily with that tree. I would sit right with it and I could feel it breathe. It would speak to me during meditation. I would get information from this tree, and I was totally, absolutely 1000% a part of, and it was very alive. And the whole earth became alive by connecting with this tree this way. And no, I wasn't doing acid. It's a very true story, but I think of that with him connecting with that ship and feeling like that ship was alive, because as Michael said too, it's like Mother Earth. It is alive. It's a living being. So yeah, that's pretty
Good
amazing.
stuff.
Very good.
Yeah.
Amen to that.
Very good stuff.
All right. So for the very last clip, it goes into more of describing the mother ET being and what they're kind of doing. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The face is hard to pick up detail other than the shape. I feel like there's some slits to eyes, but the body almost feels like it takes on like it's wearing a some clothes and an apron that's kind of colorful, kind of like my mother on earth would wear, just to make, almost like I could project onto it or something. But it's really kind of feel a real love towards it.
What's your purpose in the room?
Well, again, I'm very little here. Remembering what I remember the last time was where she said, see if I still looked human.
To see if you still looked human.
Carry DNA of other races. Traits are stronger. There's adjustments that need to be made.
Do they do any healing work on you?
They regret the suffering.
What do they mean by the suffering? They regret what suffering? The asthma?
Yeah, it's
So what happens next?
home.
So then you go back home after that?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
They want to see if he still looks human. That's what intrigues me the most.
Yeah. Me too, Mary.
Yeah, that says a lot, doesn't it?
They talk about it, the DNA, the upgrades. And when I asked, it cut out a little bit, but when I asked about the healing, he always had severe asthma. And that's what they really regretted for the suffering, is because he dealt with asthma. And so maybe the experiencer can give a little bit of feedback on the asthma and the healing work.
Yeah. So, because you asked, was there a healing? And they kind of regretted that they couldn't heal me, because that was part of kind of what I needed to bring in, or agreed to bring into this body, to sort of direct my experiences in my life in the right direction. I don't know what that is. Maybe humility, maybe being a little weaker. I think that I would, if I was physically strong and didn't have those issues, I may have become, might have somewhat of a military tendency, and that was not to be. So, when you're asthmatic, you can't go that direction. I think those are some of the things that have come to me over the years. So it was something I needed to carry for my development, and but they did check to make sure it wasn't going to kill me, so, because I almost died in the hospital from it. So, they were concerned about that.
I have asthma too, and
Yeah.
and I mean it's much better than it was when I was a kid, but I still have it.
Same
But
here.
I resonate with that as well. There were a couple of times I almost died in the hospital, but I'm still here, and I'm sure
Yeah.
partly I got a little help from my friends. But I hear you, yeah, because I often wonder what I'm bringing this over. I sometimes I wonder, if in my last life, if I died from like asphyxiation or something like that can't get my breath, and then I brought it over. The only thing is I didn't have it for 6 months. I didn't get asthma until I was 6 months old. So who knows? But I resonate with what you're saying.
Yeah, I had it as a child too. Yep.
It does shape you,
Oh
doesn't
boy,
it?
yeah,
Yeah,
it does.
yeah. I have it as well. But, this thing just clicked, and I might be the only one who wonders, is it something in the DNA that this atmosphere isn't quite correct for some people from some places?
Oh, I've thought that before.
Yeah.
I've asked that question a couple times, like what, you know. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the whole thing behind the hybrids, program. I think some species can't live in certain atmospheres, and that's why they have to do the hybrid thing so they can experience this. And I'm thoroughly convinced we're all from somewhere. We're all from some kind of DNA that doesn't originate on this planet. So.
I mean, I think we're all aliens. Actually,
Yeah.
we're all hybrids to a certain degree. We're all aliens here on this particular planet.
Right.
Well, the story goes that the Anunnaki tried to use the Neanderthal man as basically to get their gold and do their mining, and they rebelled. So they put their own DNA into the Neanderthal. And voila, here we are, Homo sapiens sapien. And so that's how all of a sudden we just showed up. The problem was they found the women very attractive and had kids with them called the Nephilim, the giants that were 7 to 10 feet tall. And I guess the Anunnaki were even taller. So, and that didn't go so well either. And the story is that's why they flooded the planet, because these beings were not nice people. So
Clean this mess up and start over. Sometimes I wonder how many times we've actually started over. I don't have a lot of faith in the actual written human history. I mean, I do to a certain degree, but
yeah,
past
I
a
agree with
certain
you.
point, past a certain point, it's anybody's guess.
Yeah.
And I mean, it could be anything,
Plato said about every 5,000 or 7,000 years, it's cyclical, that there's some type of catastrophic event. And then when you read Genesis, obviously we're coming out of an event that just happened even before.
Yeah.
So it does happen pretty right. And of course, Hopi and a lot of other indigenous people talk about these cataclysms that happen every several thousand years. So we could be getting ready for one now.
Yeah, that's true.
But we'll be back.
That's right. Yeah, we'll be back.
Always. Yep. Like, don't touch my stuff. I'll be back.
We're tenacious. We're, if nothing, hard-headed as hell.
Yeah, don't touch my stuff.
Don't touch my stuff. I'm coming
I'll be back.
I'm putting that on my headstone. Don't touch my stuff.
Don't touch my stuff. I'll be right back. Well, I did see one. Well, this is terrible. Someone had on the headstone, they said, "I told you I was sick."
Yeah, I saw that.
Oh my goodness.
We have to cut these out, Mary. These are
Oh man.
Yeah, I told you I was sick.
Oh my God, it's going to be so much fun in September. I can't. I'm not.
But I will say this. No, I mean, listen, isn't it interesting that, we all have something that we kind of bring over with us that shapes us. I like the way how the brother said that. It does shape you. Yeah. And we all got something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you said, maybe it's to keep us humble or, it makes you a little different, but it does shape. I think it kind of gives us empathy depending on what it is, because when you see other people struggle, you can say, hey, I know what that's like. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Right.
I know what that's like.
It kind of, when you suffer a lot, actually, when you're young, I think it wakes you up a little bit more.
I feel like I'm a marble in a slingshot, and the farther down, whatever it is that's running the show pulls me, and then it lets go, the higher up I can go.
Yeah.
So I look at all of my trials and tribulations in this life as a blessing in disguise.
I agree with you, because even though we've all had these experiences, I think what what comes out of us is that we're still okay. We're still here.
Exactly.
It's made us who we are.
Yeah,
It-
it
yep.
shapes you. It does shape you.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I guess I could share one thing that I thought was interesting that came out in one of these regressions was that, I've been shown that I have some hybrid children, and
Oh,
I was
wow.
actually quite afraid, to actually look at that as to, how does that happen,
Mhm.
because you hear so many stories. I was like, I don't even know if I want to see that. But we went into it, and it was quite fascinating. At least with these beings, these mantid beings that call themselves the progenitor race, they
I've heard that.
it was like you were on. I was like in this machine that I'm sorry. It's like I seen something flashing out my window. So I'm wondering what that was. And it was like you were in this machine, almost like an MRI machine or whatever, but it like raised my vibration, my frequency, like really super high, almost like into light. And then they could they just sort of, they had like the energetic imprints of all this DNA, and they could like extract it out of me and then blend it with, at any ratio they want with other DNA from other races. It was all energetic. There was no like bodies or extraction of, sperm or egg or anything like that. It was amazing. And I was like, wow, okay, that's how they do it. It was wild.
Nice.
It is wild. New and improved.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, right.
It sounds like something Jesus's mother may have gone through.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Without doing it the old-fashioned way, you know
Exactly.
what I mean?
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
A light birth. Yeah.
A little tweak here, a little tweak there. Yeah.
The old-fashioned way is just for us dense humans that like.
Listen, I have no problem.
I don't have any problem with the old-fashioned way.
No, I don't either.
Really, really don't.
But only
No,
with
I
other
tell you.
humans, that's all.
Well,
That's right. That's right.
It might not be a
Yeah,
choice,
you
though,
have to
right?
forgive me, but I just, it's something to be said for the old-fashioned way. But again, and I mean, but virgin in Hebrew is alma, it just meant young girl. It didn't mean what we think it means today. But it could have been that. I mean, because the technology was such
Right.
that, probably didn't need to do it the old-fashioned way. Well, we don't. You do it in vitro. I mean, you do it now. With, we have words
Yeah.
for it now.
Yeah.
But they probably didn't have words for it back then. So,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Well, they did. It was called Immaculate Conception, right?
Well, they didn't have, that wasn't back then. We made that up.
I
You
don't
know.
know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Deb and RJ, before we go, you want to tell us a little bit more about UFO Con, when it is and what it's all about?
Well, it's coming up real soon here. Real soon, September 22nd, 23rd at the Lakeside Resort and Conference Center in Houghton Lake, Michigan. You can find tickets online, possibly at the door, but we can't promise that. They're going fast now. But online at miufocon.com. miufocon.com.
And bring a
tons of
jacket.
speakers.
'Cause it's
And,
chilly.
yes. And all of you are going to be there.
Yeah,
You gotta bring a
it's gonna
jacket.
it's going to be epic. It really is.
I
mean,
can't
look
wait.
at what's going on, and yeah, it's going to be.
Very
There's going to
good.
be a lot to
Very
talk about. Yep.
Very good.
Yeah.
So be there.
Or
I mean,
be
I can't
square.
imagine
Or
not
be square.
Or be square, right? I can't imagine not wanting to be there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, big thanks to you guys. A big thanks to our experiencer. This
Yes.
is a really big step for him.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank
this
you,
story.
guys.
Words aren't even enough. It's very much appreciated for the information that's going to be given to the audience. And a big thanks to the audience for tuning in. And we will see you guys next week.
All right.
Hey, love you. all.
Peace.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, everybody.
Bye.
Good night.